A perfect garden lies at the heart of our oldest stories. This is the quest for the real Eden, a journey to the actual landscapes that might have inspired humanity's greatest myth. By the end, you will see how the search for a lost paradise reshapes our understanding of history itself. We will investigate sunken oases and ancient rivers, piecing together clues from archaeology and geology. What common longing for a perfect beginning connects cultures across the globe? The story of Eden begins not with a single book, but with a chorus of ancient voices. Across the dusty plains of Mesopotamia, older tales whispered of a perfect primeval garden. The Epic of Gilgamesh describes a sacred, untouched grove where the gods reside, a place of immense beauty and eternal life. Sumerian poems speak of Dilmun, a pure and radiant land where no one grows old and no creature brings harm. These stories, centuries older than the Book of Genesis, form a cultural bedrock. Scholars like Dr. John Day point to the deep parallels, not just in garden imagery, but in the great flood narratives that sweep through these civilizations. This suggests a shared heritage, a foundational myth that traveled and transformed along trade routes and through generations. Within the biblical Eden itself, every detail is rich with symbolism. The Tree of Life represents humanity's deep desire for immortality. The serpent, a complex figure, embodies the dangerous allure of forbidden knowledge and the inevitable fall from innocence. And then there are the four rivers. Two of them, the Tigris and Euphrates, are very real and very familiar, flowing through the heart of the ancient world. By anchoring its divine garden to known geography, the story creates a powerful bridge between the heavenly ideal and the earthly realm we inhabit. This universal longing for a perfect beginning, for a time and place of harmony we somehow lost, is what makes the myth so enduring. It is this very connection to a tangible landscape that sends us searching for Eden's first real-world candidate. The real Tigris and Euphrates rivers carve a path through this very landscape, their waters feeding what was once an unimaginably fertile valley. This is the first and most compelling candidate for a historical Eden, the lush Mesopotamian cradle of civilization. Here, the biblical description of four rivers finds a powerful echo. While the Tigris and Euphrates are clearly identified, the other two, named as the Pishon and Gihon, have long been mysteries. Some researchers propose these were ancient channels of the Nile, or major waterways like the Karun and Wadi Batin that once flowed into the Persian Gulf, creating a vast and fertile delta. This region was a paradise for early human societies. Archaeologists have uncovered the remains of the world's first cities, where agriculture began on a massive scale. They have translated cuneiform tablets that sing of divine gardens like the Sumerian Dilmun, a land of purity and immortality that feels hauntingly familiar. This was not an empty wilderness, but a populated, thriving heartland. The staggering discovery of Gobekli Tepe in nearby Turkey, a temple complex built over 11,000 years ago by hunter-gatherers, rewrites our entire understanding of early human capability. It proves that sophisticated cultures, capable of grand myths and spiritual concepts, existed far earlier than we ever thought. Could the story of Eden be a collective memory of this golden age, a time of agricultural abundance and profound cultural awakening before climate change altered everything? Expert Joris Zarin supports a dramatic theory. He suggests that around 6,000 years before the Common Era, a major shift in global climate created a temporary paradise in this region, followed by its gradual desertification. Sediment cores from the Persian Gulf and fossil evidence of animals like the now extinct aurochs paint a picture of a lost world. As the waters receded and the sands encroached, this once fertile land became a memory, perhaps idealized over generations into the perfect garden from which we were exiled. This powerful idea of a paradise lost to the sea leads us directly to the next compelling theory, a landscape now completely submerged beneath the waves. Far beneath the turquoise waters of the Persian Gulf lies a forgotten continent. During the last ice age, when sea levels were dramatically lower, this was not a gulf at all, but a vast, fertile plain known to scientists as the Gulf Oasis. Rivers snaked across this exposed landscape, supporting lush grasslands, forests, and a rich diversity of animals. This is our second powerful candidate for a historical Eden, a real paradise that was literally swallowed by the sea. Around 8,000 years before the Common Era, the world's glaciers melted and the oceans rose, relentlessly flooding this low-lying basin. The inundation was not a single event, but a slow, unstoppable encroachment over centuries, pushing human populations steadily back, drowning their ancestral homelands forever. Geologist and archaeologist Jeffrey Rose has championed this theory, pointing to the discovery of ancient tools and fossilized river channels on the seafloor as concrete proof that this was once a habitable and likely thriving region. This was more than just land, it was a refuge, a verdant garden in an otherwise harsh world. The people displaced by this great flood would have carried their memories with them, settling in Mesopotamia and beyond. Their stories of a lost, perfect land could have evolved over generations into the myths we know today. The Mesopotamian Garden of the Gods, a divine, pristine realm, finds a startling real-world counterpart in this sunken oasis. Consider the sheer number of global flood myths, from the Epic of Gilgamesh to stories from indigenous cultures in the Americas. They all share a common thread of catastrophic water, a universal memory that points to a shared human experience of post-ice age sea level rise. On the island of Bahrain, just north of this drowned world, stand the Bahrain burial mounds, a vast necropolis with over 100,000 ancient tombs. This site has long been linked to the mythical land of Dilmun, described in Sumerian texts as a pure, bright, and sacred place. Could these mounds be the legacy of a people who remembered the lost Gulf Oasis, a tangible memorial to a paradise that vanished beneath the waves? The biblical flood narrative itself may be a powerful, amplified recollection of this same event, a story passed down for millennia about the day the waters came and the world was remade. If Eden was lost to the sea, then its echoes can be found in every great flood story ever told. This watery end to a terrestrial paradise leads us to wonder if other legendary gardens were inspired by landscapes just as dramatic but far more remote. While Mesopotamia and the Persian Gulf offer landscapes of loss, ancient Egypt presents a vision of paradise meticulously maintained. The Nile River was not just a source of water, it was the central artery of existence, a predictable, life-giving force that carved order out of chaos. This profound relationship with their environment shaped the Egyptian concept of a perfect world, one reflected in their own symbolic gardens. These were not wild, untamed Edens, but orderly, sacred spaces designed to mirror the cosmic balance of Mot. Tomb paintings from Thebes often depict these idealized gardens, complete with symmetrical pools, rows of fruit trees, and lush vineyards, representing an eternal state of abundance and harmony. Just as the four rivers flow from Eden, the Nile was the single divine source from which all life and prosperity sprang. Egyptologist Janus Mann notes that this idea of a divinely ordered paradise was a powerful cultural export. He suggests that the Egyptian concept of the field of reeds, a heavenly realm of endless fertility and peace where the righteous lived after death, would have resonated deeply with neighboring cultures, including those in Canaan where the Genesis stories took form. This was not a paradise lost, but a paradise promised, a reward for a life lived in balance. The symbolism deepens with the presence of sacred elements. The sycamore fig tree was revered as a goddess offering shade and sustenance, a clear parallel to the life-giving trees in the center of the biblical garden. Serpents, too, held a dual role in Egyptian iconography. While the cobra goddess Wadjet was a protective force, the serpent Apophis was the eternal enemy of order, a creature of chaos defeated each night by the sun god Ra. This complex view of the serpent as both protector and antagonist finds a fascinating echo in the ambiguous creature that tempts Eve. Perhaps the most striking attempt to build an earthly Eden was the city of Amarna. The pharaoh Akhenaten broke with tradition to worship a single sun god, Aten, and built a new capital dedicated to this deity. Amarna was designed as a utopian garden city, open to the sunlight, with sprawling temples that contained elaborate gardens, orchards, and pools. It was a deliberate effort to create a paradise on earth, a place where divine harmony could be physically manifested. Though his revolution was short-lived, the ambition behind it speaks to a universal human drive. How do these Egyptian echoes, with their focus on divine order and cultivated abundance, enrich our understanding of Eden? They show that the paradise myth is not solely about a fall from grace, but also about humanity's enduring attempt to recreate a state of perfect balance, to build a garden we never have to leave. This search for a terrestrial paradise, however, was not confined to the great river valleys. It also drew people toward mist-shrouded highlands in a land we now call Ethiopia. High in the rugged green highlands of Ethiopia, the air itself feels ancient, and the landscape offers a third compelling vision for Eden. Here, a powerful tradition, preserved in some of the world's oldest Christian manuscripts, claims this land as the original paradise. The connection hinges on a single, mysterious name from Genesis, the river Gihon, said to wind through the entire land of Kush. For centuries, Ethiopian scholars have identified the Gihon with the mighty Blue Nile, a river that begins its long journey in these very highlands, cascading from Lake Tana. This is not a modern theory, but a deep-seated local belief. Historian Edward Ullendorf documented how Ethiopian texts and maps explicitly place the Garden of God within their borders, a claim supported by the nation's profound history as one of the earliest Christian kingdoms. The evidence they point to is woven into the land itself. Look at the enseat, the Ethiopian banana plant. With its massive, life-sustaining leaves and fruit, it stands as a powerful local candidate for the symbolic tree of life, a natural anchor for the biblical story within this specific ecosystem. This is not just about a river or a plant, but about a spiritual landscape that has felt sacred for millennia. The great stone obelisks of Axum, towering skyward, are more than royal tombs. They are symbols of a direct connection to the divine, reaching for the heavens from a land believed to be touched by paradise. And then there is the monastery of Deba Domo, accessible only by a leather rope pulled up a sheer cliff face. Its isolation on a flat-topped amber is profound, a place of stunning purity and separation from the world below that perfectly evokes the inaccessible, pristine quality of a lost garden. Could these highlands, with their unique biodiversity and ancient, unbroken traditions, hold a piece of Eden's puzzle? The search for a mountain-born paradise does not end here. It simply leads us north to the mysterious and volcanic peaks of Armenia. A volcanic peak dominates the horizon, its snow-capped summit eternally linked to the story of a great flood and a world reborn. Mount Ararat stands as a silent sentinel over the Armenian highlands, a region that presents our fourth and perhaps most mythically charged candidate for Eden. Here the air is thin and the landscapes are forged by fire and ice, a dramatic setting for a primeval garden. Early Christian texts and a rich tapestry of local folklore speak of these highlands as the cradle of humanity, a place of origin and divine favor. The rivers that flow from these mountains, like the powerful Araxes, are seen by historians such as James Bryce as clear parallels to the biblical rivers Pishon and Gihon, creating a hydrological map that matches the scriptural account. Bryce documented vibrant local tales of a golden age, a time of perfect harmony that was once centered in these very valleys. Geological evidence adds a compelling layer to these stories. Sediment cores and fossilized pollen tell a story of a past that was far more lush and fertile than the rugged terrain of today, a green paradise supported by volcanic soil and abundant water. Scattered across the plateau, ancient petroglyphs carved into stone depict scenes of astonishing abundance. These are not just hunting scenes, but images of overflowing orchards and humans living in peace with powerful beasts, a visual echo of the harmony described in Eden. Could one of these carved fruits represent the forbidden tree? Armenian tradition holds a fascinating answer, pointing to the native apricot. This golden fruit, unique to the region, is often called the apple of Armenia, and its Latin name, Prunus armenioca, forever ties it to this land. It is not difficult to imagine how this singular, sun-colored fruit could become the centerpiece of a story about knowledge and its consequences. The enduring power of this landscape is perfectly encapsulated at the core Verap Monastery. For centuries, monks have prayed in its stone chambers with the perfect, towering form of Mount Ararat framed in every window, a constant physical reminder of where myth and geography are inextricably fused. This elevated search from the highlands of Ethiopia to the peaks of Armenia forces a profound question. If so many distinct and distant cultures point to their own sacred highlands as the location of paradise, what does that tell us about the myth itself? Perhaps Eden was never a single, lost location, but a powerful archetype born from humanity's deepest memories of a golden age. This realization shifts our entire search, guiding us away from a single point on a map and toward the very structure of the human mind. Across the vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean, in the lush jungles of Mesoamerica, the dream of paradise found its own unique voice. The Aztecs spoke of Tamonchon, a celestial paradise of flowers where the gods created humanity and a sacred tree bled onto the stones. This was not a borrowed story, but a powerful, indigenous vision of a lost golden age, a place of origin from which their people had been separated. The parallels are too striking to ignore. How did cultures an ocean apart develop such similar core myths? Anthropologist Michael D. Coe noted the profound echoes in their flood stories and their imagery of a primeval, life-giving garden. He suggested these were not necessarily tales carried by lost travelers, but perhaps the natural outgrowth of the human mind confronting the same fundamental questions of life, death, and our origins. We see this in the Mayan codices where the world tree, or Waka-chan, stands at the very center of the cosmos, its roots in the underworld and its branches holding up the heavens, a clear parallel to the symbolic trees in the center of Eden. Then there are the cenotes, those stunning natural sinkholes that pierce the Yucatan Peninsula. To the Maya, these were not just sources of water, they were sacred portals to the underworld, life-giving wells in a stone forest that perfectly echo the role of Eden's 4 rivers as divine sources of sustenance. When Spanish chroniclers like Bernardino de Sahagún arrived, they recorded indigenous beliefs that felt hauntingly familiar, tales of a first mother and father, of a serpent deity, and of a fall from a state of original grace. At the ancient Maya city of Uxmal, the Garden of the Governor stands as a testament to this deep-seated ideal. This was not a random collection of plants, but a meticulously designed landscape, its layout mirroring the cosmic order, an earthly attempt to recreate the harmony of that first perfect world. What do these American echoes ultimately tell us? They suggest that the longing for paradise may be a universal human constant, a shared dream woven into our collective psyche. This global chorus of paradise myths, from the river valleys of the Middle East to the jungles of the Americas, forces a pivotal question. If the story of a perfect garden appears everywhere, perhaps we should stop searching for its location on a map and start looking for its origins within ourselves, within the very structure of the human mind. The soil itself holds memories of lost gardens. Archaeologists carefully sift through ancient layers, not searching for a single, gated paradise, but for the tangible traces of the abundance and harmony that inspired the myth. At the site of ancient Jericho, the excavations led by Kathleen Kenyon uncovered something remarkable: the remains of one of the world's oldest known settlements. Here, they found evidence of a society transitioning from a wandering life to a settled one, complete with domesticated plants and a perennial spring that made the desert bloom. This was not a mythical garden, but a real place where human ingenuity created a pocket of extraordinary plenty. It is easy to see how the memory of such a place, a green refuge of security and abundance in a harsh world, could evolve over generations into a story of a perfect beginning. The evidence becomes even more compelling at Gobekli Tepe. Carbon dating of organic remains at this 11,000-year-old temple complex confirms its immense antiquity. The people who built these towering stone rings were hunter-gatherers, yet they displayed a stunning level of social organization and symbolic thought. Some researchers propose that the enclosures, with their carved reliefs of animals and plants, may have served as ritual gardens, sacred spaces that represented a primordial, ideal world. This suggests the concept of a divine garden existed long before the advent of farming or cities. Further evidence comes from pollen analysis, a scientific technique that reads the history of a landscape in microscopic grains. Studies of sediment cores from Mesopotamia show a dramatic shift in vegetation over time. Layers rich with pollen from oak forests and wild grasses are gradually replaced by pollen from domesticated crops like wheat and barley, and later by the dust of desertification. This is the ecological story of a paradise lost, a green world that slowly turned to dust. A change recorded not in books, but in the very earth. In southern Iraq, the city of Eridu stands as a powerful case study. Considered by many scholars, including archaeologist Henry Wright, to be the oldest city in the world, Eridu was a center for the god Enki, the Sumerian deity of water, wisdom, and creation. Cuneiform tablets describe his abode as a lush, freshwater abyss surrounded by a garden. The physical ruins of Eridu, with its evidence of sophisticated irrigation and agriculture, mirror this literary description. It was a city built around the mastery of water, creating an artificial paradise that likely became the template for later myths. How do these scattered clues, from carbon-dated seeds to ancient irrigation canals, bring us closer to Eden's reality? They do not point to a single location, but they vividly reconstruct the human experience of a golden age, a time when we first learned to cultivate the land, and in doing so, began to dream of a perfect garden we had somehow left behind. This archaeological mosaic of a changing world finds its ultimate context in the deeper, slower story written in stone and ice. The ground beneath our feet tells a story of forgotten springs and vanished rivers. Geological evidence reveals that Earth's climate has never been static, and the end of the last ice age was a period of breathtaking transformation. As massive glaciers retreated around 10,000 years ago, they unlocked vast stores of fresh water and shifted global weather patterns, creating temporary Edens across the planet. The Sahara Desert, a symbol of absolute barrenness today, was once a rolling green savanna crisscrossed by waterways and teeming with life. This was not a minor change, but a complete ecological overhaul, turning entire regions into paradises that would later be lost to the encroaching sands. How could such a radical shift not be seared into human memory? It is here, in the slow drama of geology, that we find some of the most compelling support for the Eden myth as a collective memory of a real, fleeting golden age. Studies of the Arabian Peninsula, for instance, use satellite radar to map the ghosts of immense river systems that flowed there millennia ago. These ancient waterways, now buried under sand, once supported lush ecosystems and human settlements in places that are utterly uninhabitable today. Geologist Peter Clift analyzes sediment cores drilled from the seafloor at the mouth of the Persian Gulf. These layered samples act like a geological calendar, each stratum preserving a different epoch. They clearly show pulses of sediment carried by powerful rivers that have long since vanished from the map, their courses aligning suggestively with descriptions of mythical rivers like the Pishon. This is not just guesswork, it is physical proof of a lost hydrological world. The very shape of the land itself was forged by deeper forces. The slow, colossal grinding of plate tectonics pushed up mountain ranges that captured rainfall, creating fertile valleys and highland refuges that are prime candidates for our ancestral paradise. In the heart of Africa, evidence exists of a mega lake, a vast inland sea known as Lake Megachad that once covered an area larger than the Caspian Sea. Its remnants are today's much smaller Lake Chad. For the people living on its shores, this immense body of water would have seemed like a world of endless abundance, a gift from the gods that inevitably shrank as the climate dried. Could the memory of such a place, with its life-giving waters receding over generations, have crystallized into a story of exile from a watery garden? This theory of a fertile crescent is particularly powerful. The retreating ice caps opened a climatic window of unusual fertility in the Near East, a perfect convergence of temperature, rainfall, and soil that allowed agriculture and complex society to flourish. This period of abundance was geologically brief. As the climate stabilized into the warmer, drier pattern we know today, this green arc began to wither, and the memory of that brief, perfect age of plenty could easily have become the story of a paradise lost. The Great Flood was not the only water-based catastrophe. The gradual desertification of these green havens was a slower, but no less profound, expulsion. If the garden was a real place, then the very plants that grew there must have left their own indelible mark on the story. The very leaves rustling in Eden's garden might have left a living fingerprint on our world. We can chase rivers and dig for cities, but the myth's botanical heart offers a different kind of clue, rooted in the real flora of the ancient Middle East. At the center of it all stand two iconic trees, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. These are not just set decorations, they are powerful symbols of immortality and moral awakening. But what real trees could have inspired such profound ideas? Botanist Michael Zohary studied the plants mentioned in the Bible, and his work suggests the so-called forbidden fruit was never explicitly an apple in the original Hebrew. Early artistic tradition and linguistic analysis point to other candidates like the citron, a fragrant and ancient cultivar, or even the pomegranate with its countless seeds symbolizing fertility and knowledge. The common apple only became the dominant symbol much later, likely through a play on words in Latin, where malum means both apple and evil. This search for the forbidden fruit is really a search for a plant so compelling, so desirable, that eating it would change everything. The fig tree is another powerful contender. Its large, distinctive leaves are mentioned immediately after the fall, when Adam and Eve fashion coverings for themselves. This intimate connection to the moment of shame and awareness is deeply woven into the story. Beyond a single fruit, the very concept of a sacred tree was a cornerstone of ancient religions. In Canon, archaeologists have uncovered countless clay figurines and inscriptions dedicated to Asherah, a mother goddess worshipped in sacred groves. These living pillars, often represented by carved wooden poles, were seen as divine connectors between earth and heaven, a direct parallel to the life-giving trees in Eden. The soil itself yields more evidence. At sites like ancient Jericho, the discovery of fossilized seeds and pollen grains reveals an ecosystem rich with wild barley, pistachios, and dates. These were the raw materials of a potential paradise. Plant genetics adds another layer, tracing the origins of domesticated wheat and lentils back to the very regions we have been exploring, the foothills of the Taurus and Zagros Mountains. This is where humanity first learned to cultivate and control its food supply, a knowledge that truly separated us from the natural world and could be remembered as a fateful bite from a tree of knowledge. How do these living echoes connect us to Eden's garden? They ground a cosmic story in the tangible world of sap, fruit, and leaf. They remind us that the first human concept of paradise was not built of gold, but of living, growing things. And just as these plants supported life, they also shared their world with the creatures that would become the myth's most enduring symbols. The serpent slithers through our oldest stories with a fascinating duality, at once a tempter and a source of ancient wisdom. This creature, so central to the Eden narrative, was not an invention of a single culture but a powerful archetype that resonated across the ancient world. Anthropologist David Leeming points out that in many mythologies, the serpent is a classic trickster figure, a boundary crosser who brings dangerous knowledge that ultimately transforms humanity. Its ability to shed its skin made it a universal symbol of death and rebirth, a creature intimately familiar with the cycles of life that we can only observe from the outside. This deep symbolic power finds a startling real-world anchor at the Neolithic city of Çatalhöyük in Turkey. Here, in one of humanity's first great settlements, archaeologists uncovered shrines filled with the plaster reliefs of massive snakes, coiled and dominant on the walls. These were not objects of fear, but likely figures of veneration, guardians of the household and symbols of a potent, chthonic power. The people of Çatalhöyük lived in close quarters with the natural world, and their art reveals a worldview where the boundary between human and animal was fluid and sacred. This reverence for powerful animals extended beyond serpents to the very concept of a harmonious world. Centuries later, Assyrian palace reliefs would depict a symbolic peaceable kingdom where lions and lambs coexisted in perfect tranquility. This was an imperial ideal, a vision of a world so well ordered by the king that even nature's inherent strife was suspended. It is a powerful echo of the Edenic prophecy where the wolf will dwell with the lamb, a universal longing for a return to a state before predation, a time of primordial peace. But what of the more fantastical beasts? The fossil record provides a compelling clue. For ancient civilizations uncovering the gigantic bones of long-extinct creatures, the line between reality and myth would have been beautifully blurred. The massive skull of a woolly rhinoceros with its bizarre horns, or the towering skeleton of a mammoth, could easily have inspired tales of primordial monsters. The famous Mus Hatchek letter 1e2 Bus Hatchek S Hatchek U dragon from Babylonian myth, a creature with the body of a serpent, the forelegs of a lion, and the hind legs of an eagle, feels like a mythological composite. Yet it may well have been an attempt to rationalize the skeleton of a fantastic, unknown animal, assembled from the bones of several different species found weathering out of a hillside. These animal echoes, from the revered serpent to the imagined dragon, reveal a fundamental truth about early human relationships with nature. They show us a world alive with intelligence and power, where every creature was a potential messenger and every landscape was woven through with meaning. The search for Eden is in part a search for that lost conversation with the natural world. And just as we once looked to the animals around us for signs and symbols, we also turned our gaze upward to the stars themselves, seeking a different kind of map to paradise. The stars themselves may hold the oldest map to paradise. Long before written history, ancient builders raised stones to track the heavens, encoding a cosmic order into the very soil. At sites like Stonehenge on the Salisbury Plain, or the even older stone circles of Nabta Playa in the Egyptian desert, the alignment of megaliths with solstice sunrises and specific stars suggests these were more than calendars. They were sacred landscapes, physical representations of a harmonious universe, a celestial garden mirrored on Earth. This profound connection between the sky and the myth of a perfect beginning offers a breathtaking new dimension to our search for Eden. Archaeoastronomer Giulio Magli explores this idea, proposing that the universal myth of a world axis, a sacred mountain or tree connecting heaven and earth, finds its origin in the celestial pole. In early cosmology, the stars appeared to rotate around a fixed, central point in the night sky, a pivot of cosmic order around which the entire universe turned. This was not just an observation, it was the foundation for a spiritual geography. Could the Garden of Eden, with its life-giving rivers flowing from a central source, be a terrestrial reflection of this celestial dome? The four rivers might then represent the cardinal directions, flowing from a central axis mundi, just as the heavens were perceived to revolve around the polar star. This heavenly symbolism extends to specific constellations deeply woven into ancient myths. The Pleiades star cluster, for instance, appears in flood narratives across the globe. In Mesopotamian lore, the Great Deluge was tied to the movement of these stars. This is not a coincidence. The Pleiades marked key agricultural and seasonal cycles, their disappearance and reappearance in the night sky signaling life, death, and rebirth. A flood that remakes the world is a story perfectly mirrored by the celestial drama of the stars. Babylonian astronomy takes this further, depicting the Tigris and Euphrates not just as earthly rivers, but as celestial streams flowing through the starry expanse, a direct parallel to the biblical description. The entire vault of heaven was seen as a divine landscape, a perfect and unchanging realm of which our world was but a flawed reflection. We can even look back to Gobekli Tepe with new eyes. Those 11,000-year-old pillars, carved with animals, may have served as more than a ritual garden. Some researchers suggest their layout could have marked significant solar events or tracked the movements of stars like Sirius, turning the world's oldest temple into a permanent observatory, a stone echo of the cosmic order. Perhaps the most elegant case study is the Egyptian myth of Osiris. The god of the afterlife, resurrection, and fertile renewal was intimately tied to the constellation Orion. When Osiris was slain and dismembered, his pieces were scattered, much like the stars of Orion are scattered across the sky. His eventual restoration and reign in the peaceful field of reeds, the Egyptian paradise, was a story told in the heavens each night. This paradise was not a lost garden on earth, but a cosmic reality, a promise written in the stars for those who lived in balance. So, could Eden be a map of the stars? The evidence weaves a compelling tapestry. From the polar axis to the river of the Milky Way, the idea of a celestial paradise seems etched into humanity's oldest observations of the night sky. This heavenly connection, however, leads us to a final, profound frontier. if the garden is found in the stars, in the soil, and in the stories of every culture, perhaps its true location is not a place we can visit, but a deep-seated pattern within the human mind itself. The human mind seems to be hardwired for paradise. Across every culture and era, we find this same compelling dream of a perfect beginning, a place of harmony we have somehow lost. This is not a coincidence, but a profound feature of our psychology. The renowned psychologist Carl Jung saw myths like Eden as archetypes, universal symbols emerging from what he called the collective unconscious. For Jung, the garden was not a historical location, but a psychic image of wholeness and primal innocence, a state of being we intuitively long to return to. It represents the self before it was fractured by the complexities of life and the burdens of knowledge. This deep-seated yearning is amplified by powerful cognitive biases. We are often gripped by a rosy retrospection, a form of nostalgia that paints the past in impossibly golden hues. We imagine a simpler, purer time, a golden age free from the stresses and complications of modern existence. This bias makes the story of a lost paradise feel instinctively true, a comforting explanation for the struggles we face today. Our own childhood memories feed this impulse. Think of how we often recall early years as a time of endless summer, of safe exploration in a backyard that felt like a whole world. We project this personal feeling of a sheltered, abundant beginning onto the canvas of human history, creating a shared childhood for all of humanity. Modern psychology reveals how this longing manifests under pressure. During times of stress or anxiety, our minds frequently conjure images of peaceful, natural settings. Studies on guided imagery and meditation consistently show that visualizing a serene garden can significantly lower heart rates and reduce cortisol levels. This is not just daydreaming, it is a therapeutic tool. Horticultural therapy, for instance, uses the tangible act of gardening to help people reconnect with a rhythm of growth and tranquility, grounding them in a small, cultivated piece of that Edenic ideal. From an evolutionary standpoint, this drive makes perfect sense. Our ancestors who were drawn to lush, water-rich, and resource-abundant environments were more likely to survive and reproduce. A deep-seated attraction to landscapes that offered food, water, and shelter would have been a tremendous advantage, baked into our neural circuitry over millennia. The dream of Eden, therefore, might be a biological memory, an innate compass pointing toward the conditions that best support life. Why does this single myth resonate with such power across the globe? It seems to answer a fundamental human need for meaning, for a story that explains our separation from the natural world and our enduring hope for reconciliation. This profound psychological pull has not only shaped our myths and our mental landscapes, but has also provided the inspiration for some of humanity's most breathtaking works of art and literature. The same longing that echoes through ancient myths found its voice on the canvases of the Renaissance. Artists like Hieronymus Bosch did not merely illustrate a story, they plunged their brushes into the deepest questions of human nature. In his sprawling triptych, The Garden of Earthly Delights, Eden is a surreal and teeming landscape of crystalline forms and bizarre creatures, a paradise that feels both innocent and unnervingly strange. This was not a literal garden, but a psychological one, reflecting societal anxieties about temptation, sin, and the loss of innocence. Art historian Kenneth Clark observed that every age recreates paradise in its own image, and in these works, we see humanity projecting its own ideals and fears onto the divine canvas. Centuries earlier, medieval monks painstakingly illuminated manuscripts with images of the enclosed garden, the hortus conclusus. Walled off from the wild and dangerous world, This sacred space symbolized the purity of the Virgin Mary and the soul itself, a sanctuary of order guarded from chaos. This motif was not confined to Europe. Luminous Persian miniatures depicted Eden as a geometrically perfect paradise of flowing water and delicate blossoms, a reflection of Islamic ideals of heavenly order and beauty, where every leaf and flower spoke of divine harmony. Then came the literary earthquake of John Milton's Paradise Lost. His epic poem gave the serpent a voice of silver-tongued reason and transformed Adam and Eve into profoundly relatable characters, their fall a tragic drama of free will and consequence. Milton asked his readers to justify the ways of God to men, framing the loss of Eden not as a simple punishment, but as a necessary step toward a more mature, though painful, human freedom. This creative reinterpretation continued into the modern era. Mark Twain, with his characteristic wit, satirized the entire premise in his posthumously published works, imagining a cynical and lazy Adam who found the whole paradise business rather tedious. But perhaps the most radical vision came from the poet and painter William Blake. For Blake, Eden was not a lost place at all, but a state of energized, creative imagination. His illustrations for Milton's work are not serene, they are dynamic and fiery, filled with contorted, muscular forms. In Blake's view, the fall was not into sin, but into a limited, materialist perception. True paradise was to be found by reclaiming the prophetic, artistic spirit within. How have these countless artistic echoes kept the myth alive for so long? They have provided a shared vocabulary, a gallery of images and ideas that each generation can visit and reinterpret. From the awe-inspiring frescoes of Michelangelo to the rebellious lines of Blake, artists have ensured that Eden is never a static relic, but a living, breathing conversation about who we are and what we have lost. This cultural conversation finds its roots in traditions that stretch back even further, to the very foundations of the world's great faiths. A celestial garden of profound peace awaits the faithful, described in the Quran with the vivid clarity of flowing rivers and shaded orchards. This is Jannah, the Islamic paradise, a vision that shares deep roots with the Eden story yet unfolds with its own unique theology. According to scholars like Riza Aslan, the Quranic account places Adam and Hawa, or Eve, in a sublime garden, a place of testing and initial transgression. Yet, unlike the singular biblical garden, Jannah is often described as having multiple tiers, reflecting the diversity of divine reward and the spiritual state of the believer. This is not a paradise permanently lost, but one promised, a realm of eternal bliss attainable through faith and righteous living. The imagery is powerfully sensory, with descriptions of rivers of milk, honey, and pure water, of spouses purified and reclining on green cushions in everlasting shade. This lush vision has inspired centuries of Sufi poets like Rumi, who used the garden as a metaphor for the soul's ecstatic union with the divine, a paradise found not just in the afterlife but within the human heart itself. This longing for a perfected realm echoes powerfully across other global faiths. In Hinduism, the concept of Svarga represents a heavenly paradise, a temporary abode of pleasure and reward for virtuous souls. It is a realm of immense beauty and satisfaction, presided over by the god Indra, yet it is fundamentally impermanent. Souls enjoy their merits in Svarga until those merits are exhausted, at which point they return to the cycle of rebirth. This contrasts with the finality of the biblical exile, presenting paradise as a stage in a vast cosmic journey rather than a one-time, lost home. Further east, Buddhist traditions developed the concept of pure lands, celestial realms created by enlightened beings like Amitabha Buddha. These are not places of passive pleasure, but ideal environments for attaining enlightenment, free from the distractions and sufferings of our world. A devotee's fervent faith and repetition of a Buddha's name could grant them rebirth in such a place, a paradise perfectly engineered for spiritual progress. Some traditions even place their paradise on the map of our own world. The Tibetan Buddhist myth of Shambhala tells of a hidden kingdom sealed within snow-capped mountains, a land of peace and wisdom that will one day be revealed to save the world from darkness. This is a terrestrial paradise, a sanctuary where the sacred teachings are preserved intact. The connections reach back to some of humanity's oldest beliefs. Zoroastrianism, the ancient Persian religion, described a primordial creation of perfect harmony, a world without death or suffering, embodied by the first bovine and the first man in a sacred enclosure. This original, perfect state was corrupted by an evil spirit, leading to a cosmic struggle. Many scholars see in this dualistic narrative a profound influence on the developing Abrahamic concepts of a divine garden, a fall, and a final restoration. What do these diverse traditions, from the multi-tiered Jannah to the hidden valley of Shambhala, tell us about Eden's core message? They reveal that the paradise myth is a fundamental human response to the world's imperfections. It is a story we tell to explain our sense of displacement, to envision a state of perfect justice and peace, and to fuel our hope for a return to wholeness. Whether it is a memory of a golden age, a promise of a heavenly reward, or a map to an inner state of enlightenment, the garden endures. This universal dream of a perfect beginning has never faded, and in our modern world, it has simply found new landscapes to inhabit. The search for paradise has now ascended to the heavens, not in spirit, but in silicon and orbit. Modern explorers trade camel caravans for satellite constellations, scanning the planet's surface for the faint, ghostly signatures of a lost world. In the impenetrable Darien Gap, drones buzz over a sea of emerald canopy, their LiDAR lasers piercing the vegetation to map the terrain beneath, revealing the skeletons of ancient rivers and settlements unseen for millennia. This high-tech hunt extends to the formidable Himalayas, where researchers analyze satellite imagery for the paleo-channels of vanished waterways, the very arteries that might have fed a high-altitude garden. The legendary oceanographer Robert Ballard, who located the sunken Titanic, has applied his deep-sea expertise to the Black Sea, investigating theories of a catastrophic flood that could have submerged coastal paradises and fueled ancient deluge myths. The tools of this new quest are as diverse as the theories themselves. Expeditions push into the rugged Caucasus Mountains, following geological clues and local legends of a primordial homeland. Geneticists add another layer, mapping human migration routes out of Africa. Their studies suggest population hubs and fertile refuges that align strikingly with several of our candidate locations, providing a biological roadmap to humanity's possible cradle. One of the most tangible modern investigations is unfolding in Bahrain. The massive Garden of Eden archaeological project is meticulously excavating the island's vast fields of burial mounds, over 100,000 tombs that date back thousands of years. This site has long been linked to the Sumerian Dilmun, the land of the immortals. By studying these burial complexes and the artifacts within, researchers hope to understand the culture that thrived there and why it was so powerfully associated with a mythical paradise. With all this technology and global effort, are we any closer to pinning Eden to a map? The evidence is richer than ever, yet a single, definitive location remains elusive. This very search, however, has begun to reshape our vision for the future, turning the ancient story of a lost garden into an urgent parable for our planet's fragile ecosystems. The ancient dream of a perfect garden now confronts the stark reality of a planet in peril. This enduring myth of Eden is no longer just a historical puzzle. but a powerful ethical compass pointing toward a future of conservation and renewal. We can reframe the entire story, viewing it not as a tale of a past we lost, but as an urgent call to protect the pristine landscapes we have left. The great naturalist John Muir once wrote that in every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks, seeing the entire wilderness as a sacred garden, a reflection of divine work. This sentiment captures the very heart of modern environmentalism, where the last remaining rainforests, unspoiled wetlands, and vibrant coral reefs are understood not as resources to be exploited, but as sacred trusts, our collective earthly Edens. These places are the planet's biodiversity hotspots, teeming with life in a delicate, intricate balance that mirrors the harmony of the mythical garden. They are living libraries of genetic wonder, and their destruction is a modern repetition of the exile, a willful turning away from a state of grace. This has given rise to the powerful concept of rewilding, an ambitious effort to restore ecosystems to a state of self-sustaining abundance. By reintroducing key species, from wolves to beavers, we actively work to mend the broken threads of the natural world, attempting to roll back the clock and recreate the paradisiacal conditions where life flourishes without constant human intervention. This is not mere nostalgia, it is a practical application of the Eden ideal, a commitment to healing the very land we inhabit. For guidance in this immense task, we can look to cultures who have never fully lost the conversation with their environment. Indigenous knowledge systems across the globe embody a deep, Edenic harmony with nature, viewing forests, rivers, and animals as kin in a vast, interconnected community. Their traditional practices often represent millennia of accumulated wisdom on how to live within an ecosystem without destroying it, a lived philosophy of stewardship that modern conservation is only beginning to fully appreciate. A stunning, tangible example of this aspirational thinking is the Eden Project in Cornwall, England. Built within a reclaimed clay pit, this massive complex of geodesic biomass does not merely preserve nature, it actively recreates it. Inside those futuristic domes, you can walk through the humid air of a tropical rainforest and then step into the dry heat of a Mediterranean landscape. It is a living museum of global biodiversity and a bold statement of hope, demonstrating that even in a deeply scarred landscape, we can cultivate a new vision of paradise. So how can this ancient myth truly guide us towards sustainable living? It challenges us to see the entire Earth as that original garden, a fragile, life-giving system for which we are the reluctant stewards. The story of our exile becomes a warning about the consequences of overreach, of consuming the forbidden fruit of limitless growth without understanding the cost. This powerful ethical reflection inevitably leads us to question a strictly literal reading of the Genesis story. If we focus only on finding Eden's location on a map, we risk missing its profound message about our relationship with the natural world. The true value of the myth may not be in its historical accuracy, but in its timeless ability to inspire us to protect, restore, and cherish the living, breathing garden we call home. The search for a single, lost garden begins to falter under scholarly scrutiny. A growing chorus of theologians and historians suggests we have been asking the wrong question all along. Perhaps Eden was never intended to be a location you could pinpoint on any map. New Testament scholar Bart Ehrman is among those who argue that the Genesis story is fundamentally an allegory, a profound meditation on the human condition and our complex relationship with the divine, not a historical report. The very details used to anchor the garden in reality crumble upon closer examination. The description of the 4 rivers presents a clear logical problem. We are told a single river flows out of Eden and then splits into four, including the Tigris and Euphrates. Yet the real-world Tigris and Euphrates do not originate from a common source. They begin hundreds of miles apart in the mountains of Turkey. This is not a geographical description, but a symbolic one, painting a picture of a life-giving center from which divine blessing flows to the four corners of the known world. Then there is the problem of time, the anachronism. The story features Adam naming all the animals and engaging in agriculture, yet it is set in a primordial, perfect world before the advent of human tools, cities, or civilization as we know it. This is not a historical era, it is a mythical time outside of time, a spiritual prehistory designed to explain why our present world feels so far from perfect. Comparative mythology reinforces this view when we see the same themes of a primeval garden, a first couple, and a fateful choice in cultures from Mesopotamia to Mesoamerica. We are not uncovering a shared historical event. We are witnessing the universal human mind grappling with the same big questions about life, death, and our place in the cosmos. The drive to make the story literal, however, persists in surprising ways. Consider the case of the Garden of Eden theme park once proposed in Florida. This venture aimed to build a physical replica of the biblical garden, complete with animatronic animals and a walk-through exhibit of the fall. While a fascinating example of faith-based imagination, it also reduces a deep, symbolic narrative about innocence and knowledge into a literal tourist attraction, a commercialized interpretation that can obscure the myth's deeper psychological and ethical layers. So why does a symbolic understanding ultimately enrich the story? It frees Eden from the confines of geography and returns it to its proper home, the human heart and mind. The garden becomes a powerful metaphor for the state of innocence we all leave behind in childhood, or the inner peace we strive for amidst life's struggles. It is a story about the birth of moral consciousness, the moment we first understood the weight of our own choices. This critical lens, which sees the garden not as a lost place but as a lasting idea, perfectly sets the stage for its next great transformation, its journey into the heart of modern popular culture. Our oldest stories now glow on screens in darkened rooms. Blockbuster films and immersive video games have become the new vessels for the Eden myth, translating its ancient themes of paradise and loss for a modern audience. In the visual poem that is The Tree of Life, director Terrence Malick uses the imagery of a primal, sun-drenched garden to explore the origins of grace and the painful fall into a world of nature and suffering. The entire film feels like a memory of that first perfect state, a cinematic longing for a lost innocence. Video games take this a step further, making the player an active participant in the quest. The Assassin's Creed series weaves its secret history narratives around powerful artifacts from Eden, casting the garden not as a place of peace, but as a source of advanced technology that becomes a weapon in a timeless war. Here, the forbidden fruit is literally a piece of knowledge, an apple that can control human free will, perfectly updating the biblical temptation for a technological age. Cultural critic Eric Davis notes that these stories act as a mirror, reflecting our deep contemporary anxieties about artificial intelligence and our own creations turning against us. This fear finds its ultimate expression in the Eden Club of Blade Runner 2049, a garish pleasure palace where holographic lovers dance in a synthetic garden. It is a paradise of pure illusion, a hollow echo of the real thing that questions whether our technologically mediated world has severed us from any authentic experience of nature. This theme of a corrupted paradise is central to the dystopian narrative. In the X-Men comics and films, the Eden Initiative is a plan to create a safe haven for mutants, a new garden free from human persecution. Yet this very act of segregation reveals the enduring difficulty of building a perfect society, echoing the old divisions that fractured the first garden. James Cameron's Avatar presents perhaps the most direct parallel, with the lush moon of Pandora standing in for an unspoiled Eden. The Na'vi live in perfect harmony with their world, their spiritual connection to the Tree of Souls representing a state of grace from which humanity, with its destructive technology, is painfully exiled. The pursuit of forbidden knowledge, once symbolized by a fruit, is now the driving force of science fiction. Countless stories revolve around a secret too dangerous to know, a piece of information that could unravel reality itself. This is the tree of knowledge reimagined for the information age, and then there are quieter, more personal journeys. The video game journey presents players with a vast, beautiful desert and a distant, shining mountain peak. There are no words, only a profound sense of pilgrimage toward a sacred goal. This interactive experience evokes the universal search for meaning and transcendence, a digital meditation on the human urge to find our way back to a place of wholeness. How does pop culture keep this ancient myth so vibrantly alive? It strips the story of its doctrinal specifics and recasts it in the universal language of our time, allowing us to confront our own fears and hopes about technology, nature, and the future. This media-saturated longing for a perfect place inevitably fuels a more personal quest, one that leads us to pack our bags and search for our own earthly Edens in the world's most breathtaking landscapes. A strange forest grows on a remote island, where trees bleed crimson sap and umbrella-shaped dragon's blood trees stand as silent witnesses to a lost world. This is the Socotra Archipelago, a place so alien and pristine it feels like stepping into another epoch, a living relic of a planet we have forgotten. Travelers who brave the journey here often speak of a profound transformation, a sense of returning to a primordial state of wonder untouched by modern time. Their quest is part of a larger modern pilgrimage, a global movement driven by the Eden myth's enduring allure. We now seek out these remote destinations, from the misty valleys of Bhutan to the isolated atolls of the Pacific, hoping to catch a glimpse of that lost harmony. This deep-seated longing has fueled the entire industry of ecotourism, where the promise is not just a vacation, but a spiritual homecoming in a biodiverse sanctuary. Adventurers recount moments of pure awe, standing beneath a waterfall in a Costa Rican cloud forest or hearing the silence of the Australian outback, describing these experiences in almost religious terms as encounters with a living, breathing paradise. Travel writers amplify this mythologizing, branding these places as the last earthly heavens, unspoiled Edens waiting to be discovered. Yet this very act of seeking raises a critical tension. Consider the Maldives, a nation of coral islands often marketed as the ultimate tropical Eden with its powder-white beaches and turquoise lagoons. This image drives a lucrative tourism economy, but it exists in a fragile balance with the reality of rising sea levels and coral bleaching. The same visitors who come to experience this paradise are part of a system that threatens its very existence, forcing us to question whether our search for an untouched garden inevitably leads to its corruption. Can we truly find echoes of Eden without leaving footprints that erase them? This personal quest for paradise does not end at the water's edge. It echoes in the very design of our cities, where the dream of a perfect garden is carved into concrete and parkland. Concrete and steel can also dream of Eden. Around the world, a revolution in urban design is weaving nature back into the fabric of our cities, transforming gray skylines with the vibrant green of living walls and community gardens. This is the modern quest for paradise, not in a remote wilderness, But in the very heart of our bustling metropolises, urbanists like Jan Gehl champion this movement, arguing that cities must be designed for people, not just for traffic and efficiency. He focuses on creating human-scale environments that encourage walking, cycling, and social interaction, fostering a sense of community well-being that echoes the harmony of the mythical garden. The philosophical roots of this green city movement run deep, all the way back to the garden city concept proposed by Ebenezer Howard in the late 19th century. Howard envisioned self-contained communities surrounded by greenbelts, integrating the best of town and country. His ideal was a direct response to the overcrowded, polluted industrial cities of his time, a practical blueprint for a more balanced and healthy way of living. While his original vision was never fully realized, its spirit lives on in the leafy suburbs and planned communities that dot our landscapes, a testament to the enduring appeal of a greener urban life. Today, this vision has ascended to new heights. In Singapore, architects have turned entire skyscrapers into vertical ecosystems, with soaring gardens and cascading waterfalls built into their very structures. These are not just decorative features, they are functional lungs for the city, cooling the air, reducing noise, and providing habitats for wildlife. Rooftops, once barren spaces of tar and gravel, are being reborn as productive farms. From Brooklyn to Bangkok, these elevated plots grow fresh produce for local restaurants and residents, shortening food supply chains and reconnecting urban dwellers with the source of their sustenance. This transformation of forgotten spaces finds one of its most beautiful expressions in New York City's High Line. What was once a derelict elevated railway track has been reborn as a floating linear park, a ribbon of wildflowers and contemplation high above the city streets. It is a powerful example of how we can reclaim our urban infrastructure for nature and for people, turning symbols of industrial decay into places of serene beauty. Perhaps the most ambitious project of all is Masdar City in Abu Dhabi, a bold attempt to build a carbon-neutral oasis from the desert sands, designed to be powered entirely by renewable energy, with a personal rapid transit system replacing cars. It represents a futuristic ideal of a sustainable urban paradise. But you do not need a billion-dollar budget to cultivate Eden. Community-led initiatives are just as powerful. Neighborhoods are coming together to turn vacant lots into vibrant pocket parks and shared gardens, creating small oases of biodiversity and social connection. How can we bring this ideal into our own lives? It starts with a balcony planter for herbs, a tree planted on a sunny street, or a volunteer shift at a local garden. These small acts are the seeds from which a new urban paradise can grow, proof that the longing for Eden is not a passive memory, but an active force for creation. This physical reshaping of our environment finds a surprising parallel in a completely different realm, one built not of soil and leaves, but of code and light. A pixelated sun rises over a garden that has never known drought or decay. This is the new frontier of paradise, a digital Eden crafted not by gods but by code, where every leaf and river can be perfectly controlled. We are now building Edens with the tools of virtual reality and artificial intelligence, translating our oldest myth into an immersive, interactive experience. In platforms like Second Life, users do not just visit a world, they build it from the ground up, designing lush landscapes and serene homes that defy the limitations of the physical realm. This is more than escapism, it is a profound act of creation. As sociologist Sherry Turkle observed, we expect more from technology and less from each other, and these digital paradises offer a seductive alternative to the messy, unpredictable realities of nature and human relationships. The allure is undeniable. Here, you can cultivate a flawless orchard that never needs watering or sit beside a virtual river that never floods. the ancient longing for a harmonious, controllable world finds its ultimate expression in these boundless digital spaces. Video games have long understood this deep-seated desire. From the tranquil, cel-shaded fields of Zelda to the meticulously curated planets of No Man's Sky, game designers use Edenic imagery to create worlds we want to get lost in. These are spaces of exploration and wonder, digital gardens where the player is the central figure in a personal creation myth. The technology is evolving from mere backdrop to active participant. Artificial intelligence now simulates entire ecosystems, modeling the growth of every blade of grass and the behavior of every digital creature. Researchers are using these complex simulations to predict climate change impacts and restore damaged habitats, creating a digital twin of our world where we can test the consequences of our actions before they happen in reality. This is the tree of knowledge reimagined as a predictive algorithm, offering a glimpse into potential futures. On a more personal level, social media platforms have become their own kind of curated paradise. We sculpt our online lives into idealized versions of ourselves, sharing only the most beautiful moments in perfectly filtered gardens. This digital facade creates a powerful illusion of a perfect life, a modern echo of the pristine garden from which we present ourselves to the world, often hiding the struggles and imperfections that lie beyond the frame. Consider the case of the Eden VR project, where users don headsets to design and inhabit their own personal gardens. The psychological impact is fascinating. Early studies suggest that time spent in these serene virtual environments can reduce stress and foster creativity, offering a genuine mental refuge. Yet it also raises a poignant question. Does the ability to retreat into a flawless simulation make it harder for us to engage with the beautiful but imperfect garden of the real world? We are not just visiting these digital paradises, we are beginning to live in them, blurring the line between a helpful sanctuary and a permanent escape. This technological pursuit reveals an enduring truth about the Eden myth. Its power was never just about a location, but about a fundamental human drive to imagine and then build a better world. Whether we use stone, soil, or silicon, the dream of paradise endures. The story of a lost garden has sculpted the very foundations of Western philosophy, framing our deepest debates about human nature. St. Augustine's interpretation of the fall codified the doctrine of original sin, a belief that humanity is born intrinsically flawed, carrying the weight of that first transgression. This idea of a fundamental fracture at the heart of our being cast a long shadow, influencing centuries of theology and law, framing human nature as something in need of strict control and divine salvation. Yet the Enlightenment brought a dramatic reversal of this narrative. Philosophers like Jean-Jacques Rousseau looked back to Eden not as a story of sin, but as a vision of lost innocence. He argued for the concept of the noble savage, suggesting that humanity in its natural state was good, peaceful, and free, and that it was civilization itself, with its property, laws, and artificial desires that corrupted us. In this view, the apple from the tree of knowledge represented not moral awakening, but the beginning of envy, inequality, and social decay. This fundamental schism between a nature that is corrupt and a nature that is pure continues to echo in our political divisions and our understanding of human psychology. This philosophical battleground extends directly into the realm of gender and power. Feminist critics have long examined the Eden narrative as a foundational text for defining and justifying gender roles. The story has been used for millennia to frame woman as the secondary, derivative creation, the one who was deceived first, and thus the primary agent of humanity's downfall. This interpretation provided a powerful tool for patriarchal structures, legitimizing the subordination of women as a divine consequence. Thinkers like Mary Wollstonecraft challenged this directly, arguing that such readings were used to deny women education and moral agency, keeping them in a state of perpetual innocence that mirrored a controlled, artificial garden. The myth itself, however, contains a paradoxical seed. While often used to enforce hierarchy, the serpent's promise that eating the fruit would make Adam and Eve like gods, knowing good and evil, can also be read as the necessary, if painful, birth of human autonomy and moral choice. Our relationship with the natural world is also filtered through this primal story. The deep ecology movement draws upon the Eden myth as a potent symbol of what we have lost, a reminder of a time when humanity lived in integrated harmony with the ecosystem, not as its dominator. The expulsion from the garden becomes a powerful metaphor for our current ecological crisis, a self-inflicted exile resulting from our hunger for forbidden knowledge and control over nature. This contrasts sharply with the utopian political theories that also spring from this soil. Plato's ideal republic, a perfectly ordered society ruled by philosopher kings, can be seen as a philosophical attempt to rebuild Eden through reason and structure, to return to a state of perfect harmony through human design. From Thomas More's Utopia to Karl Marx's vision of a stateless, classless society, the dream of a social Eden, a world without conflict or scarcity, drives the most ambitious blueprints for human progress. Yet these very plans force us to confront the enduring question the myth raises. Is the perfect society a return to a prelapsarian innocence, or is it an ascent to a new state of enlightened cooperation, forged with the full knowledge of good and evil that the garden so unforgettably bestowed? The next Eden might lie in a place no map has yet recorded. Deep within the uncharted Amazon rainforest, laser scans from the air are revealing the ghostly outlines of vast, ancient cities, civilizations that thrived in a harmony with the jungle we are only beginning to understand. In the frozen depths of Antarctica, ice core samples contain pollen from prehistoric forests that once covered the continent, hinting at lost worlds sealed under miles of ice. Our search for paradise is entering a new age, driven by technologies that let us read the Earth's forgotten stories. Paleogenetics is one such revolutionary tool. By sequencing ancient DNA from human remains, scientists like Spencer Wells can trace the migration routes of our earliest ancestors. This genetic map could one day pinpoint a specific homeland, a fertile refuge where humanity spent a crucial period of its infancy, a real-world garden whose memory became myth. Underwater archaeology adds another dimension to this quest. In the anoxic depths of the Black Sea, where wood and bone do not decay, researchers are searching for the submerged settlements of a lost coastal plain. A rapid flood here thousands of years ago could have drowned entire communities, creating a powerful, localized story of a paradise swallowed by the sea. The search is even reaching for the stars, as telescopes identify Earth like exoplanets in distant solar systems. We are confronted with the possibility of cosmic Edens, worlds of untouched beauty that rekindle the oldest questions about our own origins and our place in the universe. These new gardens are not made of soil and water, but of data. Artificial intelligence can now process thousands of myths from across the globe, finding hidden narrative patterns and symbolic connections that a human reader would miss. These digital analyzers might reveal the universal core of the paradise story, the fundamental human experience that gives it such enduring power. Consider the lost city hydrothermal field, a stunning landscape of towering white spires on the Atlantic seafloor. Here, in total darkness, extremophile life thrives in superheated, mineral-rich water, a completely independent ecosystem that does not rely on the sun. This otherworldly garden, teeming with strange life, offers a glimpse of what a primordial, life-giving paradise might have looked like on a young Earth or even on another world. The future of this ancient search lies in these unexplored frontiers, where genetic codes, ocean trenches, and star charts converge. What new paradise will we discover when we learn to read the story written in our own blood or in the light from a distant sun? Our journey across continents and centuries brings us to a final, quiet truth. The search for Eden is not a quest for a lost location, but a mirror held up to humanity's soul. From the sunken oasis of the Persian Gulf to the digital gardens of virtual reality, we have followed a trail of longing. We have seen how real landscapes of incredible beauty and historical abundance became the raw material for our greatest story of loss. This myth is a tapestry woven from the threads of archaeology, geology, and the deepest needs of the human spirit. It speaks to our collective memory of a golden age, our anxiety about the knowledge we possess, and our enduring hope for reconciliation with the natural world. The legacy of this story is not found on a single map, but in the choices we make every day. It calls on us to see the fragile, living paradise we still inhabit, from the community garden in a bustling city to the last pristine wilderness. It challenges us to be not conquerors of nature, but its grateful stewards. So I leave you with a question. Where do you see the echoes of Eden in your own world? Perhaps in a quiet park, a thriving houseplant, or a memory of a place that felt perfectly at peace. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if this journey through time has sparked your curiosity, subscribe for more explorations into the mysteries that shape our past and our future. Thank you for listening, and may your own search always lead